Welcome to all. My name is Marianne Roselaine. I'm working for the Federal Public Service BOSA as an innovation manager and in project related to AI in public service. It is my pleasure today to guide you through this conference. I hope you will enjoy the content and the speakers as much as I did during the preparation of this session. Just before we actually start, let me kindly remind you some practical information. This webinar is recorded. Please turn off your microphone during the presentations. The session will be mainly held in English, but you can ask your question in English, Dutch, and French. For questions, do not hesitate to use the chat during the whole session. Please write your question starting with an hashtag and the name of the topic. For example, hashtag justice. This will allow the speaker to spot the topic among the questions. At the end of this session, there will be a dedicated time for questions. Today is Friday and it's the last day of the European week. During this week, there has been 99 sessions organized by the whole AI for Belgium ecosystem. Hundreds of partners, academics, institutions, associations, research centers, startups, and companies contributed to the success of the week. The region and local administration also presented their plans and successful initiatives. Throughout the week, the previous session have covered a big range of issues such as major challenges in society, opportunity and risk in specific fields such as industry, media, agriculture. We also talked about blockchain, AI training and funding opportunities. This session, however, is entirely dedicated to AI in the public sector, also known as AI for Gov. Let me introduce you to the agenda of this session. First, we will have the introduction, which consists of the results of a survey and some key recommendations. The second part will show us a few initiatives that illustrate how to tackle some of the challenges mentioned in the recommendation. Thirdly, we have the Q&A session. Please note that this session will not cover AI basic technological strategies or plan. The program is rich and the time is short, so let's directly dive into the session. So let me introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Colin Van Nort. He's a PhD at the Department of Innovation and Governance at Tallinn University of Technology in Estonia. He's an expert for the AI Watch team of the European Commission, where he's contributing to the research activity on the use of AI within public service. He's one of the authors of the report AI Watch Artificial Intelligence in Public Services, published by the European Commission's Joint Research Center. His work is used by the European Commission, the European Parliament, the OECD. He also advises various European member states as part of their strategy, policy, research, or publication regarding the use of government. Colin, please, we're glad to have you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this amazing introduction. I would go straight to sharing the slides. I think then I will stop you, so that's I think it's fine. Okay. Okay. And you should see the full view, right? So not my presenter view. All good?
No, we see the application.
Okay. Let's see if I can change it. How about now? Is good?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you. Then let's get started. So thanks again for the introduction, and also welcome everybody who is watching this session. I just heard it's one of the more popular sessions, and I think it really shows that this in the interest of using AI within government has really grown over the last years. So I'm very excited to present also some of this work that we've been doing on this topic. So a bit about myself. I am indeed working on this topic for quite a while, and I will try to present to you today some insights that we did from a survey last year, and connecting it a bit broader with the more academic and other literature on AI in government, because there's a lot of interesting initiatives going on. But this is a field in particular that is plagued by certain challenges that really makes it different and more distinct than normal AI used by companies, and that only makes it more interesting, but at the same time a bit more difficult. But we'll go into that along the way. So why were we talking about this right now, right? So why is everybody here? Because there is this big interest of having AI in government, and there's a lot of different application areas we could use these technologies for to improve what governments do, and maybe to help them do completely new things we didn't even imagine. The AI technologies give a lot of new possibilities, and in the end, there are different values that AI can help achieve. So think about more economic goals, such as enhancing efficiency and effectiveness of policy, but also more internally oriented, right? So it can make redundant tasks of the administrations automated. It can improve maybe the job satisfaction of the public employees. It can actually, we will go into that probably later today, actually make the government more accountable rather than less accountable with these technologies. It can help also citizens' perceptions of AI, help increase accessibility, and maybe even enhance citizen participation to really connect citizens with governments. And there's so many opportunities that these technologies could give and can really help to improve the way governments work. And I think that is especially relevant now in a time where the world is full of different challenges, and we need all the opportunities we can get to make governments function even better than they already are. But at the same time, where we stand now is that we see a lot of difficulties with realizing this dream, and to really move beyond this hope that we have with AI. So there's plenty of articles, and I just picked a couple quite well known that really show, but it's not so easy. The use of AI in government needs to still take off. It's still a very early stage. And if there is use of these kind of applications, whether it's fully AI-based deep learning applications or a bit more simple automation, we see that there's a lot of risks involved as well. Think of Syria, Netherlands, but there's examples in every country of the use of these techniques in government services where it went completely wrong. So the government really faces with some specific challenges. And what can we do to really advance on this? And I will not dwell on it. I think if you are interested, you can find the article online. I will share it perhaps also in the chat. But there are a couple factors involved that we have identified in the academic literature that can really help. These are a couple environmental factors, organizational factors for within the administration, how the innovation is perceived, so how AI is perceived by people, and also individual, because in the end, innovation is done by people and not by the machine itself, right? So there's a couple of these factors that we have identified in the academic literature that we know help contribute. It's not an automatic, if this is present, then automatically innovation will happen. But we have seen the more and more these factors are helping rather than hindering, the more and more it's likely that we have this innovation present. So what we do with that in mind, we wanted to really try to understand, okay, so what is the current status of the use of AI by public administration in Belgium? So we launched a survey last year, And we had a very nice high response rate, 170. That's really impressive. So thanks everybody if you're watching and you did the survey and like, wait a minute, I remember. Thanks very much because it was very insightful. So what we found, the survey was mostly answered by federal government employees. Municipalities are unfortunately not represented that well. But despite these gaps, we still found some very interesting insights that I will go over with you later in this presentation. So what was also one interesting thing, we really designed the survey not to be technical. It was really designed to have everybody, whether you use AI or not, to be able to answer, and to success, because as you can see, we also ask about what kind of function they are, and most of them have non-IT related functions. So it really showed that it was quite widespread. At the same time, we see also that there are some more technical questions that are maybe not fit for everybody. But despite that, we really had a nice broad uptake of the survey, and there's some quite interesting insights. So the first thing, of course, that we asked, okay, so how involved are you with AI in your work? And we saw that most respondents actually said, well, not that much. As you can see, there's only really a fraction of the respondents that said, okay, I use this very often or frequently. Most of them never, very rarely, or rarely, right? So it's still not really that present, but that's also interesting to see that there's interest, but the involvement, in fact, is still in an early phase. Similarly, we asked them, okay, so is your organization now using AI already? And you could see that 1/3, a bit more than 1/3 said, yeah, we are already using AI in our organization, and 2/3, this is not yet the case. So that's so you can see it's still on a minor scale. And we also actually asked the people who are using AI, so what's the level, and most of it is still small scale. So think about small pilots, small scale use, really widespread use of AI. Only a handful, I think, maybe not even a handful, replied this. So it's in an early phase, but the interest is there. But clearly there's some challenges in really moving forward. But I think also what we will see later with the other presentations, now there's a lot more going on, and given the fact that this survey is now a year old, I think the image would look much more different now. What we also noticed from the survey is the importance that we demystify AI a little bit, right? So first thing most people may think is this Terminator view, very big, super intelligent robots. Practically, the AI in government is not like this, right? This is mostly very software, more simple applications. And a couple examples that of AI that was used now in Belgium are the following, like a document recognition, chatbots, fraud detection, robotic process automation, ANPR cameras. This is not the big self-driving cars or robots that we may associate. This is more practical things to indeed simplify data processing, help services, improve information, and to develop new services. So this is the reality. And I put some other examples just to highlight a little bit what we see also elsewhere. This is the AI in practice, not the high robotic things. So there's room for giving the fair picture to understand expectations of AI in government. But there are, of course, like I said, specific and important risks to AI that are really important to consider when you want to do this. And especially for government, I would say they are even more important and maybe even more broad. So, and I could talk 1 hour about these risks, but we unfortunately don't have time for this. But I picked a couple ones that I think are very crucial to understand. Is obviously, the first one is the privacy threat, especially when government does something related to AI. There are significant ethical and legal concerns of data collection that may be very opaque, illegal, or too widespread that we are comfortable with the government doing, despite the fact that private organizations may do the same, but then it's acceptable. Something that needs to be taken into consideration. Also, more surveillance because of AI, more eyes and ears that we may not want the government to have. Similarly, AI can make decisions also more opaque. So it can be political decisions that are hidden in the design, or the decisions are unexplainable. And I think the most important one is also we often do not know when or how and for what purpose AI is used. And this is in a government context, of course, much more sensitive. And there's this risk of techno-solutionism, the assumption that we can fix social issues with AI all the time. But we see that also AI can amplify biases, or they're just meaningless relationships, and many others that we probably know or have heard later in this week. And we asked also the respondents, so what are the side effects, like negative consequences that you identified? And you can see quite a wide spread of different things. Not really anything stands out, but there are side effects, such as even something like the cost was higher, or it is difficult, there's security risk, the staff doesn't trust it. So there are things that happen following, and it needs to be, of course, taken into consideration. Then coming back a bit to this model, right? So we wanted to boost a bit the AI in government. We tried to also understand, okay, which are these factors that we know contribute to having more AI to help facilitate this process, which of them are present or not. And I would definitely invite you when we publish the full report to read all of that, because there's a lot of information in there. But there were a couple of really important barriers that we identified. And the first one is really the lack of expertise within the organization. So as you can see in the figure 2, we asked, do you have enough employees with expertise in AI? And you can see only 2% agreed or totally agreed. So of course, this is a big barrier for moving forward with AI, and one of the things that really needs addressing. But it also was mentioned, the lack of awareness. We don't really know where we can use this technology, what it is capable of, like this demystification. So this is also something really crucial. There are difficulties in sharing of data. Sometimes was mentioned as a big barrier. And of course, we don't always have a budget present, or we don't know if it's there. Well, what really stood out is that the ethical concerns of AI or political leadership, which are often mentioned as the main barriers, were actually not considered so much. So that's quite interesting. And we already noticed that there was a high activity in networks, such as this event, this AI for Belgium network. And in general, the data-related antecedents, so these factors, the governance, quality, data sharing, was in generally higher than we thought. But most of the barriers we see are non-technical. So also was mentioned, with my organization, it doesn't want to take risks. We don't have a willingness to change, that we don't really know how to move data-driven. So it's all non-technical, the main barriers, and that needs, of course, addressing. So to sum up, we have really a lot of opportunities to move forward with this. And I think what is crucial for then in the Belgian context is to overcome these barriers by building on the strengths that we already have. So we have this problem with expertise and short sharing possibilities of what AI can do, but we already have this strong network. We can help spread out expertise, share more possibilities, inspire people what AI can do for their day-to-day jobs. And that requires more focus than only ethical concerns or tackling data-related issues. It comes to very mundane or a bit out of the box issues. And we can maybe help this by also having more expertise inside the government organization by training, hiring, or actually collaborating with external partners. We also see this is difficult to really measure the uptake of AI because of there's so many different applications. So people have different visions. So that is, of course, challenging. So for some, one AI is not AI for the other. And what we also want to, of course, have is seeing the survey, the different barriers and drivers were present in different organizations. So we need to also make sure there's a level playing field. We cannot only have one organization with scoring super high. Every public administration should have some kind of similar, the same opportunities. And that requires facilitating experimentation, boosting creativity, and being honest, sharing what works and what also does not. So as a last takeaway, I would really highlight when moving forward with AI in government to be bold but responsible. We need to try to see what's possible. There needs to be support for this, but of course, always in a responsible way. Be aware of possible risks. Be honest about what you are doing. And with that, I think there's a lot of possibilities to really improve the public sector for citizens, but also for their own organization. So with that, I'll conclude. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Colin, for your involvement and contribution to the exploration of the AI landscape in Belgium. And also thanks to you, Promvo, from the KU Leuven, who was involved in this survey. We have seen that the barriers in AI in public administration are often not only technological, but also based on other aspects such as the lack of expertise, the difficulty of sharing data, budget and complex procurement processes. And that it is important to inspire and show how to experiment and facilitate the use of solution with other administration. And this is how the rest of the session is going to be about. And our next speaker is Bert. Bert Jeroel is working as an innovation designer for the Belgian Federal Public Service. He has a background in psychology and psychometrics, and is passionate about all things that are open. He's an active volunteer and board member of the non-profit Open Knowledge Belgium. Bert will now tell us the story of a real government need to follow up on AI that became a proof of concept and then a ready-to-use solution as a service for the federal government agencies. Bert, we are listening to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, Marianne. So I'm going to talk about bots as a managed service, which is about conversational AI, the next step in chatbots. What I'm going to start with is some history. In 2011, Siri was launched by Apple. And if you ask Siri in 2011, hey Siri, call me an ambulance, Siri would respond, okay, from now on, I will call you an ambulance. This was 2011. Now today, this is a research which was done recently in 2021, which is interesting because it is a follow-up research from something which was done in 2019, which is comparing different virtual assistants to their comprehension accuracy. With the topic here was medication names. And if you look at it, you see that Alexa and Siri, or Alexa is actually just below 70% accurate, Siri is just above, and Google is above 80% currently. We also see that Siri and Alexa has improved the last 2 years, and Google, within this topic, within this domain of medication naming, Google stayed the same, and still below 90%. You can look at this as being high, 90%, but this is still also 10% of non-understanding. And this is also the reason why I think that the usage of virtual assistants can still be frustrating. This is Cookie, formerly known as Mutsuku. She or he was winner of 5 times of the Loebner Turing Test Award, and has been seen currently as one of the best conversational AIs on the market. You can visit and have a chat with her. This is actually a real chat that I had with Cookie, so that you have an idea. So Cookie starts a conversation. Hi there, I'm Cookie. I'm a friendly AI here to chat with you 24/7. We could start by getting to know each other if you like. What's your name? My name is Bert. Thanks for visiting me, Bert. I know we're going to be great friends. So it's a very friendly AI. Tell me about yourself. What sort of things do you like to do? I don't like to talk about myself, was my answer. What would you rather talk about? I would like to hear a poem. Mary had a little lamp. She tied it to a pylon, then 1,000 volts went up its bum and turned its wool to nylon. That's cruel. Cookie, can you also share me a limerick? There was a young lady from Leeds who swallowed a packet of seeds. In less than an hour, her head was a flower and her hair was covered in weeds. So as you notice, Cookie is quite good at having conversations. I asked if she could do magic, just give me a chocolate bar and watch me make it disappear. I asked if she could pass the Turing test. Her response was, yes, Bert, I can pass the Turing test every time, but I choose not to show anyone in case people get scared and try to delete me. Then I asked what the population was of China, and Cookie gave a very exact answer, which shows that it's not a human. Human don't respond like this. But what Cookie also showed, it was developed also like 10 years ago, and in those 10 years, it has improved, and it is a very good conversational AI. But to train that, it was very hard, and it is a continuous and long-running effort to make sure that the way that we can talk and have conversations with a robot or with an algorithm in a way that it's satisfying and fluid is a very hard effort. So where are we with conversational AI at BOSA? Actually, so it's not only BOSA, I think in federal government, other agency, like for instance, SMALS is working on this since several years. At BOSA itself, we started with an innovation lab in 2018 with the thought economy. And in 2019, we started a transversal project for BOSA itself, in which we tried to launch a chatbot for BOSA, which turned out to be based on a use case on a chatbot for Sailor. And it has been put in soft launch, so it's available on the contact page of Sailor currently to test and to try to increase its accuracy and make sure that it's a satisfying way of having a conversation with Sailor for candidates who want to apply for a job at federal government. So this is in 2021, where we have now, as BOSA, a first version live. And we decided that we want to invest in this technology. There are two things to it. One, chatbots are currently not very much available on government websites. There are some examples, but it's not widespread. So we actually put a framework contract into the market. So from this year onwards, we are starting with bots as a managed service, which together with a supplier, we will try to get chatbots more into the federal government. And why are we doing this? Because we think, and this is what we experienced by testing it out, we think that this can be used to increase the satisfaction of users in their interactions with public services. It also can, because we are, as a public service, we see an increasing amount of questions coming in of citizens with our help desks, our frontline support being very highly asked for. This can be a way to make sure that questions that are repetitive and can be answered more quickly, that there is an efficiency gain. This is also like Colin put forward the reasons why we are using, we want to use conversational agents in this. And in general, so it's a framework contract, we also would like to promote that people get started with this technology so that we can catch up and also try to keep up with what's happening in this field, so that if this becomes something which is very widely used and citizens expect this as a communication channel for government, that we are trying to be up to speed and deliver it in a sufficient way. So this is a multi-year effort. We are very well aware that the first steps will be the same like the first steps that the people who are the front runners in this technology took. So for the first horizon is to make sure that we have more people working with this technology and that we create a community between different people, different domains that are putting chatbots into practice. We are going to connect those also together. We have the solutions that we have is actually a front end which talks in the back end now to IBM Watson, but it can also be connected to an open source solution like Rasa. And we would like to make sure that the domain bots are connected to each other in a concept via master bot, so there is no wrong door. So the principle and the technology allows to do this is that when a dialogue is developed within a certain domain, that it can be connected to a master bot so that an end user will be via the bot connected to the right knowledge base. In the end goal is to have a user-centric, fully integrated service in which all those knowledge bases are connected to each other. We will aim for it to make sure this is an integrated solution. So there are a lot of challenges to this, challenges that we are well aware of that we cannot all overcome alone. So we, as also Colin mentioned already, this is something we should be connected with people who have already a lot of experience in this field. With the managed service that we have now, we have a possibility to introduce the technology. And now we would like to build up also a community which is using this and is sharing knowledge with each other. Because we want to catch up and keep up with the technology. We want to get started with voice. This is, I think, also a challenge just in general for Dutch and French speaking and German speaking voice assistants that are on a level which is satisfying. There is a big challenge in interoperability. We don't want to create separate knowledge bases with these chatbots. We would try to maximize a connection with existing knowledge bases, with, for instance, CMS of websites that exist or FAQs that exist. This is something that we use a sandbox for to test this out and to make sure that we have a maximum of effort to create interoperability. And this is also one of the reasons for the framework contract is to make sure that, because using the technology is quite easy, you can get quickly started with it. But if you want to have a production ready solution that you can offer to all your citizens, there are some issues to tackle. One of this is privacy, GDPR, which is big on the list. So we make sure that our chatbot follows those rulings and make this sustainable. And I also think that Colin has mentioned this. There needs to be a training. There needs to be people within government that know how to handle this technology, can work with it, and can help to keep it sustainable in the long run. And also that citizens, when they talk to a conversation agent, that they see and know that it will grow and that it will develop in the future, so that some questions that cannot be answered now already will be handled, so that in the long run we have a satisfying solution. And of course, there are a lot of other challenges that will pop up along the way. I think making sure, I think everybody has already some experiences with chatbots on different occasions or with conversational agents. Some of them are going well, some of them are have some room for improvement. I think the biggest challenge for us will also be to make sure that citizens have a satisfying experience when talking to conversational agents that are giving access to a government service.
Bert, thanks.
That's it.
Thanks a lot for this very interesting presentation of an idea that came a real solution. I have now the pleasure to welcome Professor Grégory Lecovitz. Grégory is a professor at the Université Libre de Bruxelles and the Global Law Program Director of the Perelman Center at the Faculty of Law. He holds a chair of excellence in economic law and artificial intelligence. He also teaches the interaction between law and technology at the Sciences Po Paris Law School, Those are only a few of the positions he holds in relation with digital transformation of law and legal tech. Gregory, we are really honored to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marianne. I hope that everything, thank you for having me. I hope you hear me correctly because I'm actually in Paris and I had to find a place in Sciences Po to participate to this panel.
We do hear you, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I will share my slide, and basically what I would like to do here is to discuss a little bit and show you different concrete results that we had in the field of law, working in collaboration between public services and universities. So I will not discuss with you the completely what I would say the phantasm that a lot of lawyers have of the robot judge or the robot lawyer, but more concrete step that can be used in order to have a more efficient legal system, to have a better knowledge, to discover things that we were not able to see before, and finally, how to also use AI in the field of administration, especially in legislation, in order to simplify the legislation for the benefits of citizens. So the results that I will show you are, of course, not only a work of mine. We have built a kind of strong network of partners in the excellent platform on law, AI, and the digital turn that is partially financed by the G3, Université de Montréal, de Genève, et de Bruxelles. And so far, we are focusing mainly on French countries, Montréal, Genève, of course, our friend from the University of Nice, HEC Paris, and of the Permanent Center where I'm based. So the first, can you see my slide? Yes, huh?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So the first example that I want to share with you is a work that we have achieved in collaboration also with École Polytechnique de Paris regarding case management for justice, and especially a work that we have done with the Cour de Cassation. So basically, it's not, the idea is not in this case to go into the details of the decisions taken by the Cour de Cassation. The idea was to help the Cour de Cassation in the management of the case, because for the different case they have to manage, they need, for instance, to appoint a reporting judge. And the thing is that this appointment of a reporting judge can take up to 3 months. And of course, this is a very long time, and that does not contribute to the efficiency of the legal process. So what the Cour de Cassation wanted is that we work on a model that can help them to automatize this appointment of a reporting judge. So we get access to a lot of decisions of the Cour de Cassation and all the information related to these different cases, including the supplementary pleadings of the lawyers, of the attorneys, and for that we had also an agreement with l'Ordre des Avocats, la Cour de Cassation et le Conseil d'État. And what basically we have done is that we have trained a model in order to be able to automatically define what could be or what will be the relevant reporting judge for a case, through an automatic analysis of the content of the supplementary pleadings of the attorneys. And as you can see, we have used different kind of model, and we reach today, we are still in the process to have more accuracy, but we already have an accuracy of 83.3%, and that's quite high. So the idea is that we can help the Cour de Cassation with this tool to more efficiently manage their cases and to reduce the time needed to appoint a reporting judge from, let's say, between 1 and 3 months to 8 seconds. So that is a huge achievement, I think, in order to have more efficient justice, and at the same time, without taking any very relevant job from the judges. Second example that I want to share with you is this collaboration that the Laboratoire de Cyberjustice in Montréal has done with the La Régie du Logement in the region of Quebec. So what they have done there is that they they build a kind of alternative dispute resolution with justice bots, and they develop this justice bot in order to promote other way to find a solution when you have conflict between landlord and tenants. So basically what they have done is that they've worked on 1.5 million different cases, and they identify the most important reasons why tenants are going to the court in order to settle a case and to get a decision from the judge. And they identify, for instance, that one of the most important reason why people are going to justice, the tenant are going to justice, is because they have some kind of bed bugs. And so the idea was to identify, okay, what is the situation, what are the most important aspect of a case, and depending on the different information, this justice bot can help to identify and to give the information to the tenant of how much they can expect to get from the court. And on the basis of that, of course, people can still decide to see a judge, but they can also try to have a negotiation with the landlord that will have the same information. And in fact, because the Régie du Logement, which is the kind of, it's the Tribunal Administratif, so it's a kind of jurisdiction, because they participate in this project is used and is a little bit kind of compulsory for landlord and tenants to use this system and try to find an agreement. So this is the second case, the second example. The third example that I want to share with you is still with the Cour de Cassation in France, and it's a little bit more theoretical, but it's to show you that we can get a lot of information from the case law that we were not able to get in the past. So the idea there is it's a project that was implemented with the support of Data AI in France. The idea there was to try to find a way to identify and to define the difficulty, how difficult is a case. Because of course, if for different reasons, it may make sense to know if a case is a difficult case to bring to the court or not. So in order to do that, we have worked on 3 million decision, and what we wanted to do is for automatically, it's an unsupervised model that was developed, to identify for a case, considering that these different cases have the same number of articles. So that means that from at least 5. So the idea was to put together all the cases that have at least 5 civil codes provisions that are identical. And on the basis of that, that was helping us to kind of cluster the different kind of cases. And then what we have done is to make a distinction between when a claimant wins, when a defendant wins, and of course, we had some problem with some cases that are the blue one, and these one were unknown because the structure of the decisions were not the same. So in using this system, this model, what we were able to identify, for instance, communities with high or medium winning rates. So that means that these cases, and they are similar, for instance, one is about cases regarding holiday in the SNCF. So that means that these cases are probably quite easy to win compared to other cases that you have only red dots, that means that all the claimant lost. So that means that these cases are a little bit difficult. So that is a new knowledge. We were not able to do that in the past, and can be useful, of course, for companies, for law firms also to define whether they will send their best attorney or only a junior trainee in order to plea in front of the court. And last example that just started is that this one is in Brussels, in the context of FARI, the new Artificial Intelligence for the Common Good Institute, based in Brussels in a collaboration between ULB and VUB. The idea is to bring the same kind of instruments and techniques in order to help the regions to simplify, to do some kind of administrative simplification. So basically what we are doing is that we are building a database with legislation, but not only legislation, all the different normative texts that are applicable at the level of the region and the different communes of Brussels. And then we will do some kind of some work with NLP in order to produce some tests. The test can be a priori for new regulations, or can be used as a control for old rules and regulation. And the idea is basically first to start with the identification of risk for technological neutrality. So in that case, it's to identify in the different texts of the region the occurrence that have a consequence to force citizens to use, for instance, paper instead of digital technology to address the administration. Of course, each time you have lettres recommandées in a regulation, that means that you cannot do this digitally, and that is a problem. So if you want to have technological neutrality, you need to identify all these kind of expressions that are used and that constrain citizens to use only paper procedure. The other test that we will develop is the test of the application of the once only principle with the idea. And the idea is basically that the administration and the state has a lot of information already in database, and the idea is to identify in all the different laws and normative texts when the administration or the legislator ask the citizen to provide, or the companies to provide information that they in principle have already. For instance, here you can see if you want to get some help for the COVID, you need to provide a list of all the money you already get in the context of section 3.1. Of course, this information, the administration has already this information because the help was given by the administration. So it makes sense to flag this part of the regulation in order to potentially change it. But that's only a beginning, and then we will move into new way to approach drafting legislation. So thank you very much. I hope I was not too long.
Yes, Gregory.
I'll give you the floor. Back.
Thanks, Gregory. Yes, you were a bit too long, and I know you could talk for hours. Thank you very much. This was really an eye-opener in terms of the potential of AI related to AI, justice, and administrative simplification. Let's now go to our next speaker, who is David Jaroszewski. David is working at the Belgian Federal Judicial Police. He's a senior advisor in research and development and in ICT strategy. David strongly believes in a digitalization of processes with people and not without them. His experience led him to discover the word of standard to be respected when he was in IT, and the word of standard to be challenged when he was in the special units of the police. He's now in his current job combining both sides. So the openness, flexibility, and opening to more possibilities, and the other side, which is strictness, accountability, and safety. David, the floor is yours.
Merci, Marianne. Voilà, so I will share my presentation. So thank you, Marianne. And I will start, so coming from justice to police. Thank you, Gregory. Alors voilà, the AI issue within the police, and I will show you that with one of our projects, we have a lot of technical projects and technical issues to reach. But one of them is sub-project MASS. MASS stands for Mass Analytics, Storage, and Solutions for Evidence. It means that we are working in the hybrid cloud solutions to store our data and to connect the hybrid cloud solutions to our data lake. Then integration. So this project is integrated in actual technical infrastructure, but also in the next future with the project iPolice. Experience, very important for us, is to reach the user-friendly approach to be sure that our investigators can be much more focused in investigations and not only in the tech part of our solutions. And the job to be done, it's to find a solution in storage solution and processes as a service, to have a link with our case management system, and to implement AI engines to be applied in our data lake, AI engines from third-party partners, but also our own engines, availability, security, and very important, the social return on investment. That means safety for our citizens. For us, that is a challenge also for the capacity. So capacity and skills building. And our strategy is build by borrow. Build, we have a lot of amount of colleagues specialized in analytics, tactical analytics, operation analytics, crime intelligence specialists, data engineers, etc., etc. We buy, I mean, we are hiring guys from external consultancy also, like data scientists, Elasticsearch, and so on. So very, very specialized guys. It's not possible to hire by the standard and classical way in the public administration. And last one, very important, is the borrow. This is a project mode. This is a partnership with private partners, also with other public services and academic. About academic, for us, it's very important in our AI journey to reach legal and citizen accountability. So I mean GDPR aspect. And so we started a co-creation with our partner from VUB, so the AI lab from VUB. Value creation, what was the target zone to reach? Co-creation started in 2020 with a specific and dedicated contract between the judicial police and the iLab VUB. And the goal was to create a data protection impact assessment framework for the use of AI engine on our police data and to be sure to reach this legal accountability challenge. So we had a multiple exchange and work moments about business content and about methodology. Value creation, for which result today in March 2022. First draft of this framework delivered end 2021. And we are now using this framework with our partner of the VUB to create the PR of one of our own machine learning engine. So we created a machine learning engine for the threat to life challenge in one of our huge operations, Sky ECC, with 700 million messages. And we have to pick up in these 700 million messages, what is threat to life, what is not threat to life. And we built this engine, and now we are creating this PR about the use of this engine in this operational data with VUB, with external partners, and with justice. Return on investment for the police. If it is okay, I will also apply this framework for all other engines embedded engines, but also coming from third-party partners. Social return on investment, so I'm speaking about the citizen, it's to create the trust, a trust relationship with the citizen, and to give a guarantee about our legal dimension, which is reached with this partnership. Some key takeaway about this initiative. First, co-creation helps to get out of a tunnel vision. We have a tunnel vision. We have our ideas. IT is not our core business. We are not MIT. And so to work with all these partners and specific academic work, it brings you to upscale your knowledge about your environment. Two, it creates a relationship of trust. We started in 2020, and I will go further in 2022. And I'm preparing something at the EU level to start a project also with VUB. Third, it opens up new opportunities. But co-creation, it's not like a tender process. It's not I ask and you get. The objectives and scope must be clearly identified. So it's not I want to work in GDPR. No, I want to create something related to the use of GDPR with my data. Then it's not getting to know each other by one of two meetings. This is a process of jump into my fishbowl, come within the police. You have to know what we are doing, who we are, and also the same from the police with academic world. But it requires times, that's a fact, but the return on investment is huge, and it is much more sustainable. So my last conclusion is it works. It works with the judicial police. It works with so huge operation like Sky ECC, and it gives results. And so we believe in this way of working with our partners. Thank you.
David, thank you so much for this interesting use case about co-creation. We will now welcome our next speaker, who is Björn Claesen. Björn is a postdoctoral researcher at the Public Administration and Management Research Group of the University of Antwerp. He's an expert in government evolutions and reforms and the changes that they bring into society. Björn, please, we are listening to you.
Yeah, I think you can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. I wasn't sure whether I was unmuted. Great. So today I'll be talking to you a little bit about our recent research, which is actually after the reforms project, but still related to societal changes, into what makes citizens trust AI in government. We've already seen that user trust is a major topic of study into trust when people trust AI, both in the private and the public sector. What we were specifically interested in actually is what happens when they're non-user citizens. So in that sense, it's an interesting complement to the previous presentation, which also looked at citizens a little bit. But the basic idea is that non-users are also essential stakeholders in a democracy, and when public outrage occurs in a major crisis, so a trust breach in a sense, it's usually among this broader group. So we hope to be able to reassure citizens in general, not just users, that AI projects in government are trustworthy, right? And the question is whether we can communicate that as a government to citizens effectively, or whether pre-existing filters on part of the citizen, so pre-existing attitudes, pre-existing traits and perceptions, dominate their attitudes, even if you communicate towards them. So just as a small primer, there are huge amounts of variations in the ways that governments attempt to approach building trustworthy AI in government. We actually saw an alternative approach in the previous presentation. One we've seen in our interviews pop up repeatedly is actually implementing the EU high-level expert group trustworthiness guidelines. I won't go over them into detail, but basically they distinguish several principles that an organization could implement, even though organizations often have some difficulty with that because they're quite vague and abstract still. And the idea is that your AI is trustworthy once you comply with these 7 principles. Very reductionist, but for time's sake, let's keep it at that. And we've tried to cover as many of these principles as possible in our research on whether that actually induces trust among citizens. So how do we actually research this? We build an experiment, a survey experiment with 1,200 citizens in experiment 1 and 800 in experiment 2. And we first provide a baseline of information on 3 hypothetical AI projects in government. One on road maintenance, one on tax fraud, and one on visitor flows using location data, anonymized. These are hypothetical projects, but still quite realistic, and they provide a nice mix. And then we provide additional information, for instance, on the degree of legal compliance with GDPR, DPO functions, and a legal base, but also an ethical AI, so the no harm principle, for instance, being able to explain your predictions with your black box algorithm, with an XAI algorithm, for instance. Information on data gathering, do you just gather data internally yourself as a government, or do you also share it with other organizations in the private sector? So we have a number of those interventions, 6 in total. And the survey flow then works as follows. We first measure pre-existing traits, so your trust in government, privacy concerns, etc. Then we randomly assign you to either the control group, so the placebo in terms of a medical experiment, and then there are 18 treatment groups. What's really important here specifically is that we can also combine different treatments. So I just mentioned that legal information on the GDPR, but we can also combine that with ethical information on the explainability and no harm principle to create, and then you can you're provided with 2 pieces of information in that group, which creates a stronger intervention, right? What's also notable is that we try to structure it as a press release or as a media article, which is probably how the general populace would see this stuff, right? They won't directly interact with governmental AIs 99% of the time, which is what most research up until now is focused on. So on to the results. Our results were unfortunately less optimistic than the ones in the previous presentation. So we had 18 different variations of communications on trustworthiness measures, and none of them seemed to really work. You can see that in the graph as well. All the averages are very close together. There is a side note for legal information, which had a tenuous effect, but it was negative. So people who got legal information on GDPR compliance and a legal base actually trusted the AI projects presented a little bit less. And for technical robustness, there was a slight but very tenuous, and I wouldn't bet my money on it, positive effect. So making your project a bit more robust might work, but we need more information. Far more influential were actually all the pre-existing attitudes and traits we measured. Privacy concerns, trust in government, and trust in AI all are very strong predictors of whether you trust AI in government or not. Also an interesting role about whether you feel part of a group that's discriminated against the society. Those people apparently seem to perceive AI in government as a bit more of a threat than people who are not discriminated against, which shows there's enormous societal variation we need to take into account as well. So what are the key takeaways? So communicating on and improving trustworthiness at a project level is essential. So the high level are the expert group guidelines of the EU, for instance, but all the other frameworks as well. That is still a very important condition to create trust, but it's not a sufficient condition. What's really interesting to note here, I don't have much time left, I believe, but the distinction between users and non-users might be extremely important, because users directly see the system, and other teams from the Netherlands have found that if you can directly explain your algorithm to a user, you might induce trust. But in our experiments with the general population, it seems that you are not able to do this. So I think integrating the non-user-user divide is important. That suggests a greater coordination of guidelines among public authorities to prevent trust breaches in the future. As if we can't build trust, we must prevent trust breaches in the future, right? And then a very brief note: in the future experiments, we also attempt to examine under what conditions trust is lost, because we can't build trust, so we have to prevent trust from being lost, right? And it seems that crises, even abroad, or particularly invasive projects with broad data categories, seem to play an important role in reducing trust. But these are preliminary results from an ongoing experiment, so we'll have to keep you updated on that in the future. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Björn, for those insights, and also remembering the importance of the trust of citizens in the activity of government in general, and not only about AI. It is my pleasure now to introduce you to Julie de Bergeyck. Julie is the program manager of Digital Wallonia.ai. She's also AI project lead at Agoria. She's passionate about technology and bringing together people from different backgrounds in order to have a positive and sustainable impact on our economy and society. Julie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marianne, and thank you to the BOSA team for the organization of this wonderful AI week. Let me dive right away in my short testimony by sharing 3 slides. You should see them, starting with one that sets, oh, no, you don't see them yet. Voilà. Normally you should see them. I imagine you will tell me if it's not the case.
Yes, we see them,
Okay.
Julie, thank you.
Starting with one that set the scene, so the audience, so that the audience can really grasp the why and how we try to support the Walloon public sector in their AI endeavors. And so the AI program has the ambition to accelerate the adoption of AI to make Wallonia stronger. And the program is built around 4 different pillars that you can see on the screen, with the first one touching on modernizing the public sector, the second one more on companies, and then you can see the others. But my story is about those 2 in between, actually, and it sits on different mechanisms, 3 different mechanisms that we have developed to make AI available for companies. And so we tested these mechanisms with companies. We noticed that they were useful, they were demanded, and so we transposed them to the public sector. So Startia, I'm not going to go over it, but just say that Startia is about putting together an organization with another organization, an AI expert company, to help them identify AI opportunities within the organization. And so that happens usually for 3 to 5 days for over several months. And so obviously we had to adapt it. We made it longer for the public sector, and the cost was free for the public sector because of the more difficult procurement situation. And so here you can see on the left-hand side the different candidates. We had 30 that happened in the spring, in the summer last year. We could only choose 10, unfortunately, but we put them in contact with all the AI expert companies on the right-hand side. And so they worked together for 5 months. I need to tell you one important thing is that we had great help from Isabelle Rawar, who works on the Smart Region strategy at l'Agence du Numérique, and she really knew this audience. And so these entities were already, or the majority of them, in a digital transformation reflection. And so what did we learn from that? The results, and this is my last slide. We saw that all of these different entities, public entities, identified many different AI opportunities. You can see them on the right-hand side. It went from energy efficiency, urban mobility, to even, anticipating the filling of recycling parks. It was very, very various. And so on the left-hand side, you see that we usually ask an evaluation at the end of each mission. And you can see that all of them recommended the Startia to other organizations. And so I wanted to resume by saying next steps, and then by saying what we learned. Next steps, obviously, we are hoping to propose to them the next mechanism, which is Tremplin IA, so that they can really test one identified opportunity, so that they can test them, and we will subsidize them for 30,000 euros. This will go directly to the expert, again, because of procurement, and the missions will be longer too. And so to close, I'd like to resume what we learned. Well, I mentioned it several times. There is a procurement problematic, and we need to work with it. We adapt to it, but it's possible. We also see that our program has a value add, especially in the matchmaking. The public sector doesn't necessarily know who are the experts that they need to work with, and we have that expertise, vice versa. The public sector needs more time because we see typically there are more decision makers involved, there are more stakeholders involved, and so it takes a little bit more time. But despite this, we have seen a great deal of enthusiasm, interest from this first batch of participants, and we hope it will give a taste of interest to many others. So if you're interested, don't hesitate to contact my colleague or myself. We are at your disposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julie, for this cases that illustrate how we can help administration to get on board with AI and to have a taste of it and discover what can be done as a start. Let me now introduce you to our last speaker. He's going to talk, he's the last one, but he's going to talk about the first thing that we need to feed AI. I'm talking about the data. This subject is going to be dealt with Bart Hansens. Bart is working for the FPS BOSA as a semantic web developer and interoperability expert. He's also a maintainer of the Federal Open Data Portal. And I can tell you he's truly an open source enthusiast. Bart, please tell us more about open data and the Open Data Portal at BOSA. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, Marianne. I'm going to share my screen. Yep. And you should go. Yeah. So open data. As Marianne already introduced, well, AI often requires data. And as you probably know, the administrations are sitting on truckloads of data. Many of the data which could be opened up and published as open data. So what is open data? Quite easy. It's data that does not contain personal information, and that's available in a hopefully machine-friendly format and under a free license, so you can use and share it in your applications. At BOSA, we do not have that much of data of our own, but we are a little bit the mediator between the different data owners, also at federal, regional, and local level. And we try to be a little bit the mediator between people looking for data and people working with data. So it can be citizens, it can be companies who are looking to get access to certain types of data, but it can also be administration. So if you're a public administration and you're looking for some expertise on how to open up data, or if you're looking for data yourself, because also administrations are using data. well, then you can get in touch with us and we try to help you as much as possible. One of the things we also do is we try to organize a little things like data dives. So probably you are aware that there are a lot of hackathons and that kind of events. Data dive is more oriented towards a long-term solution. So in a data dive, we try to get a group of 5 or 10 people working on and discussing on a certain topic on data. For instance, if you're a public administration and there is a good use case from a company, we sit together and we discuss how we can help each other in creating projects or unleashing the data. What we also do is we provide practice and expertise in various let's say boring topics like metadata descriptions, specifications, linked data, how to couple things together in semantic webs and so on and so on. So it might not be the most sexy things that we do, but it's more in the background and it's quite a useful operation. As mentioned, we try to collect as much as possible data sets from not only the federal level, but also from the local and regional level. And we have a portal and we also have a community of people who are working on those portals. But the most important thing is not the portal, it's the people behind the portals. And it's also the contact point for looking for data. So once again, if you're looking for data, no matter if it's local or regional or federal data, just visit the website. And if you're not, if you don't find what you're looking for, feel free to send us a little email to openbelgium@belgium.be. There's also a chat room. So if you want to get a chat with some real persons, not a machine and not an AI powered version, but real humans, there's also a chat room available. So once again, if you're an administration, let us know if you want to publish data, if you're looking for a specific data set, or if you want to know more about licenses, metadata, or tools, just let us know. Also, if you're a company or a journalist or a not-for-profit organization, or if you're from a university, you name it, if you're looking for data, just let us know, visit the website or send me an email. Also, if you have the data available, but you're thinking, well, maybe it should be in another format or in another web service, if things could be improved, just let us know. We are here to help you. It might not be directly tied to artificial intelligence, but it might help your project. So let us know if you need some assistance there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bart, for this concrete call to action and this offering a bridge to other public services to co-create and to collaborate. This was our last speaker, and I would like to thank all the speakers. We have seen that in public administration, there are barriers to AI, but we have also seen that it can be worthwhile opening those gates to unlock the potential of AI. I'm now opening the floor to the question time. There has been at the beginning one question about the decision of justice online. Gregory, if you hear me, I can repeat the question.
Yes, I hear you, and I get the question, but please.
Okay. It was about the fact that there has been a decision to publish all the decision online. So where do we stand in that matter?
So in fact, it's not yet done. I think it will not be done anytime soon. So the Ministry of Justice has issued avis de marché this year in February. This to organize and take care of the whole thing. So I mean, the database with the decisions, the judicial decisions, and the maintenance of the database, etc. But the global amount is 5 million. So I don't think you can do that with 5 million. So I think it's just a political move to justify that later we will be again too late, because we are late regarding this since at least 10 years, and now everybody start to see it because we get some kind of benchmark with other countries. But normally, if they get people, this is a process that will will start soon, but for sure will not be ready for September 2022.
Okay, thank you, Gregory. I'm now asking to the other panelists if they have seen some question that they would like to answer or to give some feedback about. Colin, yes, please.
Yeah, it maybe relates. When at the start there was a question about the costs, for instance, of AI projects and how it can be still feasible for public administrations to lower the costs. And given the fact that now we have seen some examples, maybe some of the other panelists maybe can share some insights what they did to maybe reduce costs of the development of AI, or if they know anything else that they may want to share with the participants, because it's true that some AI can cost a lot of money, because that's the big shots projects, but it doesn't need to be. It can be very small scale. So maybe if the others have some more specific insights, I think it can be helpful for this question.
Yes, thank you, Colin. I guess the question of budget and also innovative procurement could be also the subject of a very interesting topic by itself. I see that Nathanael is among us, is the leader of AI for Belgium and a major player in the organization of this whole AI week. Nathanael, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much, Marianne. It was a very, very interesting session, and I think we succeed in that, in making people understand what are the challenges and the enablers. To begin with AI, I think Belgium can be a front runner in that. We have the support of Colin for that. We have AI for the common good that is specifically dedicated to that, and we have now a task force within BOSA to prepare it. And okay, what I would say, I was just nodding because I think you are right. The main difficulty will be about the public procurement and adapt the public procurement to AI projects, in the sense or that many part of an AI project is often an exploratory study. So it's sometimes difficult to know what will be the different steps, and it's very iterative. So I think we should find a way to deploy more artificial intelligence within the public services.
Thank you, Nathanael. I also see a reaction from Luc Justen, who I know is made a POC in relation with AI and knowledge management. Can you hear us? Would you like to react?
Yes.
Oh.
The thing about the cost?
No, I was talking to Luc Justen, but maybe he's not.
Because he put something in the chat.
Yes, and yes, I think he doesn't hear us anymore. He's on mute. Okay, I see that Julie maybe would like to say something.
Well, I just wanted to confirm indeed, at least we see with the, I mentioned very briefly the Tremplin IA, so it's that mechanism that supports POCs, enabling companies to do some POCs, proof of concept, so to really test out the viability of a project, an AI project. And indeed, we subsidize it at 27K for a project of 40K, but there's some POCs that are way less expensive. And so, but with that kind of amount, you can already do a very nice dive. And in very different technologies of AI, in very, very different types of applications.
Luc, can you hear us now? I know that it was an important day for you today with your proof of concept.
Thus, we made a proof of concept about document management and predictability within case law. We did it in a very short period of time, so 3 months to achieve some results, to learn. It was really a learning process for us. And this morning we decided to go further with different part of the process of liability. So the contentieux fiscal, voilà, fiscal skill. So there will be soon, I hope, 1 or 2 developments of very typical small part of artificial intelligence within the whole process. So I'm very pleased. Yes.
Thank you, Luc.
And we have a second project with the UCL about legislation. We start the 1st of April. It's not a joke. Huh? And we did the 2 projects with less than 20,000 euro. So it's possible to learn a lot with not a lot of money.
Thank you, Luc, for this. I see that Didier Kernel would also like to talk. Didier, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
And the other way around, can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So maybe I want to say a few things. First, thank you for organizing all this. Second, when I'm listening to declarations, they are always going in the good direction. Really, I mean, also at the European level, especially my passion is concerning health data space. So, but the first comment concerning now the practical things is at the moment it is still almost impossible for citizens to share health data for science, and it's the same situation in Belgium, in other countries, except I think in Finland. So if we really want open data and for health, among other things, it's necessary to have actions going in this direction. And my second comment is about this part about open justice. So I know that it's very complicated to put the legal decisions online, but on the other side, the Constitutional Court is doing that since many years, and also I don't know what it is in English, the Raad van State, Conseil d'État, is doing that also since many years. So I don't understand that it seems to be more complicated today than in the past. And at the moment, the situation is most all decisions are electronically available, of course, and they are going to private companies for a part. So there is no public justice anymore in Belgium, because there is no publication of the the arrest and the decisions of court. So I would like to ask again to the person who was speaking about this aspect. Yeah, how can we accelerate this to have a country where it is possible for citizens to know about decisions of justice?
Thank you, Didier. I guess this question is more related to the talk of Grégory.
Yes, yes. So I think the problem is a little bit everywhere the same, of course, more or less. First of all, in the past, there were no GDPR and perhaps also less sensitivity of people about their private life and their name, because we have a lot of important cases that we know, like Le Ski, and then it's the name of the case and everybody knows the name. But that is one aspect, I think, a political one. There is a second aspect that create a problem is the fact that when it's the decision of the high courts, I mean, it's one thing, but there is a lot of discussion everywhere about what about the decision of first instance, because there you have a lot of data. It's really a lot of decisions, and really easily you can reuse this data to do different kind of stuff that could be problematic. So what can we do to accelerate this? But I think what we should do is to have a good system to organize the online publication. It means to have at least first an agreement between all the stakeholders that is not there on what should be anonymized and what should not be anonymized, and who should have access and should not have access to what, etc., etc. And then to be able to implement this agreement in the technology. So that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Grégory, for this answer. We are coming close to the end of this very interesting session. Maybe I will give the floor to Bert for a last comment on how we could also use data to for cost saving. Bert, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, my comment in the chat was about the fact that promoting reusability and making sure, definitely as a government, that things that are developed, that they are reusable not only in one context, but try to maximize it also to be reusable in another context. And actually, and that's something that Bart Hanses pointed me to again, a good example is the Common Voice project of Mozilla, in which they are actually gathering data in several languages, also in the languages that we need for Belgium, enough data so that voice can be trained. And that I think this is a good example of an effort that is needed to improve AI. That would be a very high cost for one company, but if we do it all together, it can be a better setup and a lower cost for everyone.
Thank you, Bert, and thank you, everybody. I'm going to do a very quick poll in the chat. May I ask you to the attendant just to write a few words on the topics they were interested in, or they would like to go deeper in some next sessions. While we are doing this, I'm also going to close this very interesting session. Today is the last day, but the afternoon will continue with some other events, including AI in China and other topics. You will find the link on the chat with the other sessions, And at 6, there will be also the closing ceremony of this week and the 3rd birthday of the AI for Belgium initiative. I thank you very much. If you have more questions and if you want to reach me, my address will also be in the chat box. I thank you very, very much for your contributions, patience, and attention and question. And I wish you a very good afternoon. Thank you very much. And also thank you to Alexander, our technical support, who has always been very reactful. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.